Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning, depending on where you may be. And welcome to Fireside Chat number 54. We are joined by video producer, director, and filthy MRA sympathizer, Steve Brule. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm also here with Allison.
Yep, I'm just here briefly, just to thank Steve for coming on the show, and also thank him for helping out with a project that we did together recently that ended up being a lot of fun.
Do you have any personal experience with any men's, issues, or anybody that you know, or anything like that?
I have gone through the divorce ringer. I guess not divorce ringer, the family court ringer.
Oh yeah,
and that's quite an experience.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Or?
Well, I can tell you for various issues for over 11 years, I was mostly in court processes. It takes nothing. In my case, and the mother would not cooperate with absolutely anything, so everything had to go through court.
11 years.
So that was 11 years worth of court. 7 years self-represented because it's just too expensive. Four and a half years with a lawyer. That drained the bank a lot. And then it was after that I figured I had to self-represent.
Yeah, that's what I figured. What I was going to bring up is 11 years in court sounds expensive, and you only made it about 4 before you were basically representing yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Anybody who's been through like that kind of situation would know it's stressful. It's expensive and stressful. And I would say for me, it was one of the reasons why I lost my job at the time. It was very, very hard to concentrate. And so it was a difficult period, those first 4.5 years for sure.
And you said that were there kids involved with this?
Yeah. It was all about my son, custody issues. And of course money.
and how's your son now? Do you see him or?
Yes, he lives in Ottawa. He has a place with a couple of friends, and we've had a very good relationship. I was able to keep 50-50 custody throughout. So it took 4 years of lawyer time to get the 50-50 custody, and then a number of other things like his mother wanted to take him out of the country for good, so I had to do an emergency motion to block that, and that was the beginning of another 7 years of court battles.
Was that did she want to do that just to get him away from you, or did she? I guess I don't know if there's any way to know that, but
no, I think like I say, I don't really know for sure. She at one point in our legal battles had declared that equal custody was not her definition of the family. Her definition of the family was her and her the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So she didn't want to have to have any kind of equal involvement.
Was she also trying to get alimony, child support, that kind of thing?
Child support for sure. I was able to avoid the alimony situation.
Okay. Well, actually, despite everything, it sounds like you were actually relatively fortunate compared to most men. So
yeah, it is a ringer. I mean, it's there's no way to describe how depressing that whole process is. Mm-hmm. It is a really, really depressing thing to have to go through, and it'll drain your energy as well as your money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And in her case, she's not from Canada originally. She was a landed immigrant, and she was from Grenada. Oh. And she had this was where the extra almost 7 years came in. Is that she had approached the Grenadian embassy to get a passport without telling me for my son, and bought a one-way plane ticket. It was to Grenada for her and him. So And Grenada does not have it's not a signatory of the Hague Convention, which is the case in which they cooperate in these kinds of cases if there's a abduction or, illegal leaving. So I had to initiate a emergency motion to have her not able to leave with him at the border. Mm-hmm. And that took before all the details of that went through the court system. That was a good almost 7 years more. I get to meet and work with some of the most interesting people, I think, on the planet. People who are not afraid to follow a direction that they find to be true and aren't going to sway from it. Cassie's a special person that way. It would have been much easier for her, for her life and for her career, if she just played ball with the feminist funders, right?
Yeah.
If she had played along, she could have created a hit piece and slammed. She would have had to give up her integrity, which she didn't. And this is one thing that I find in all of the people that I meet and talk to who are involved in these things, is these are people with a deep, deep sense of integrity and an enormous capacity to see through the surface to deeper issues involved. And this is virtually everybody I've met through this work has significant capacity along those lines. Mm-hmm. So it's a privilege to be doing the work, and I'm very proud that Cassie asked to use some footage. My footage was a small part of her film, which dealt with a lot of men's issues, but I'm very, very proud to have been able to contribute something, some small thing to that.
Oh yeah, but it's not a small thing. I mean, like, if you think about it, a lot of those videos, at least amongst people who know what, who are aware of men's issues, those videos are absolutely crucial to seeing, like, what feminism can really be like, and the kinds of issues that men are trying to discuss. Without seeing those protests, did you do were you there for the fire alarm that got pulled?
Several fire alarms, yeah.
The big red stuff, you were there for that too? Is that you?
I have a big red on my channel too, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the guy.
That was an experience.
Yeah, I bet it was. What did that continue after beyond what you got, the big red interaction?
It went on for a long time. So Big Red was out there sort of being Big Red for, I don't even know how long, but a lot of it had to be kind of, trimmed back a bit because it's just very repetitive, right? Yeah. And that's part of patriarchy, and that's part of patriarchy. I stubbed my toe. That's part of patriarchy. It's just, I mean, what's weird is standing there watching it, not incredulous as to how somebody could do this to themselves in public. If anybody's out there listening and you're thinking of getting involved in this kind of work, this is one of those soft advantages or real big pleasures, is that you do get to meet and work with people like Janice, Warren Farrell, Paul Elam, Karen Strawn, and you guys at the Honey Badgers. These are great people to get to know. And by getting involved, you will get to know these people because they are all very deep and important thinkers, and they are attracted to one another. And for me, I met Janice at one of her lectures at the University of Toronto at Cafe was giving on. I was really there just to film the protest myself, and over a few different times we got to talking, and over the years we met several times, and I asked, when she was coming to Queens to give a lecture there, I asked if I could interview her, and that just little bit by little bit we became very good friends, and I consider Janice and her husband very close friends, very wonderful people. I love spending time with them. We go to dinner together periodically. It's just this is a huge benefit of being involved in this kind of work. So I recommend it to anybody.
No, Janice is a great person. I got to meet her for the first time in London, and she gave a killer speech there. So
I can say that everyone that I've met who has the courage to speak out in this kind of area, these are special people. These are people that are great to be with. These are people with deep integrity, a great sense of humor, a sense of a deep understanding of our time, and human relations, of feminism, of many, many things. And I include your honey badgers in that as well. And of course, Aaron Pizzi, and well, so many names that I can't bring to my fingertips at the moment. Karen Strawn and Allison and yourself, Brian.
Janet Bloomfield and
Janet
Sage
Bloomfield.
And so many people.
Sage, Anil Kumar from India. It's around the world. It's a special group of people that circles the globe, people who see through the veils.
I wanted to tell you something else, something that happened that I thought you might find interesting. This is the impact of what we're doing. I saw you were in another interview not long ago with Modern Medusa and Mad Cat. And
oh, yeah.
There was a discussion about whether or not, there's like how much impact we have. Like how well are we doing? How are we doing with this conversation? Kind of a big question, but I gave it some thought myself. And I think that things are improving at an exponential rate. And I think it has a lot to do with Cassie Jaye's movie, as well as the fact that, like, this is bleeding into the mainstream, this conversation. Feminists can't deny it anymore. They used to. It's like the old Gandhi saying, right? First they laugh at you. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And they're at the point now where they are fighting us. And we're starting to win, I think, because they used to just pretend that there was no such thing. And this is for several decades. Because this goes back, Warren Farrell's been doing this work since the 70s, right?
Oh, yeah, he's an icon in this area.
Yeah, yeah. So, and for the most part, even though he's been on Oprah and stuff like that, or was it Donahue? I know he's been on like some daytime talk shows talking about this. It was Donahue, not Oprah. Sorry, guys. Before you jump on me.
He was on Oprah as well. Oh. Yeah, he was on Oprah as well.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
He's probably on both, yeah. But now that we have the internet, everything moves like way faster, right? So they already tried to ridicule, and that didn't work. They persisted, and now they're at the point where they're fighting. But here's the thing that you notice that shows you that things are changing. When feminists talk about men's rights activists, they cannot begin to ridicule or demonize them before they acknowledge that there are men's issues that exist. Things that they ignored before or pretended couldn't possibly exist, now they have to acknowledge it, because there are people that, most people are going to fight them on that. They're going to call them on it. Just yesterday, there were a few things that came up. One, there was a story about a beauty cream for skin, that was made, I'm not kidding you, made from the foreskins of babies, all right?
Yeah.
And the Huffington Post put out this article to say, hey, would you try this? It looks like it works really well. And there was no, they didn't talk about it from a moral standpoint. It was on their beauty, sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but like the beauty section of their website. And you go to the comments section, everyone is outraged. They're angry. They're like, this is terrible. How could you do this? Do you realize what circumcision is? This is interesting because we didn't have that kind of awareness around circumcision before. And they had no positive feedback from that. Another thing I noticed was there was another story that we did about a man who went to a hotel room. He was a widow. His wife had died of leukemia. He went to a hotel room with his daughter, who was 13 years old. The hotel staff thought he was a pedophile. They asked for ID, and he didn't have any for his daughter for whatever reason. I guess in London they don't really do that, because this was in Leeds, because this is where they were. They were in England. So it turned into a big ordeal, but at the end of the day, he had mountains of support from people. The Daily Mail, I believe they're the ones that reported on it. They did so honestly. They didn't frame it in a bad way. He was clearly the victim of essentially being a suspected pedophile. He had a lot of support, which is, again, this is strange because this is coming from the same country who had an airline where it was illegal for a man to sit next to a child. I don't know if you remember that. Or not illegal, but they had a rule. They had a rule against it, right?
They actually had a guy move because he was seated beside a child, and they switched him with a woman.
Yes, they switched him with a woman. I think that there is definitely a shift happening. And the third thing, which is also kind of awesome, there was a woman who went to the Red Pill screening in Calgary that just passed, this was on Tuesday, who was a journalist for a feminist paper. She went there to report on the Red Pill, or do a movie review. Went in line to get in. She was, according to the person who I spoke to, some of the people who organized the event, which were a representative from Cafe in Calgary, another one for Fathers' Rights in Calgary, told me that the woman was in line shaking with fear because she was afraid the MRAs were going to get her. This was like the narrative that she was fed, right? Yeah. But when she goes to see the film and when she comes out, she had been crying. Makeup is running down her face. She had been crying from sympathy, likely as a result of the, well, it could have been any number of stories because there's a lot that tug at the heartstrings. But I'm guessing that if you made it to the circumcision part and, you know, you hadn't reacted, then I don't know what to tell you. You know, if you hadn't had some kind of a reaction, an emotional reaction. So she had a very strong, positive, you know, feedback from the film, and she left there. And the person who I spoke to yesterday for the show on behalf of this, I asked her if she can tell me who this woman is. I want to try and reach her. And so she gave me her contact info, and I looked her up on Twitter, and I sent her a message, and I said, so I understand you saw the Red Pill last night. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. My name is Brian. I work with the Honey Badgers. You might have known them from the film because they were in it, you know. And she messages me back, and she's like proud to talk to me about it. I actually asked her if she would like to come on and maybe discuss her experience, and she said she felt honored to do so, but that she doesn't think of herself as a good enough journalist because I guess she actually works for a college paper, so it wasn't like she was working for some major newspaper. But still, the point is, though, she was impacted by this. She had her eyes opened, and it was painful because it's one of those things, you know, it changes your worldview so much that for some people it's probably pretty drastic. I mean, she still thinks of herself as a feminist. She just wants to be one of the good ones, you know. But still, this is what we're looking at, you know. The impact of, it's like a snowball. You started making these little, you know, recording these events, and it snowballed from there, and how, you know, this is where we are.